Well, good morning, everybody.
Hi.
From all around the world, and to everyone who's with us on Instagram Live, Facebook Live, and YouTube Live today. We are AVVI, and we are Formless, and today is our closing of our Calling You Home collective. 42 days, we did it. Woo, for us. Yay. So we want to thank everyone. We're going to do that during this time. But we thought that it would be really great to end this series because it has been 42 days, over 30 events, some of which were live, recorded, pre-recorded events, to just recap a little bit and then focus us on some transition and moving forward. This event has been, for any of you who have been a part of it, or at least you've been tracking with us for the 42 days, the series was filled with events and learning experiences to help you call yourself home, whatever that meant for you. And part of that process, as any of you who have done some work with us or in other ways know, that often means dredging up emotions and thoughts that you feel like you need to explore, maybe need to kind of get over or move forward. And so I wanted today to kick us off talking about that, right? Like what it means to let go of all of the things that maybe you've been made aware of or that you were revisiting and contemplating during this process. And I thought that it would help us to do one last piece of content. So I'm Chris Grimm. I'm a co-founder of AVVI. If we haven't been together before, thanks for joining us. I'm glad to meet you. And I'm going to show my screen really quickly. This whole event is not going to be teachy like this with a PowerPoint, but I do want to show an image and talk really briefly because I know in this series, one of the things I've experienced in my conversation with some of you, actually everybody who joined us in one way or another, about how hard it is for us as humans to let go and transition out of thinking and emotions that we've had for a long time. Even if it's been a few days, sometimes it feels super intense, depending on how important things are to us. So I'm just going to show you something, and I'm going to urge you that if this is new to you, that you can spend some time looking it up, or you can find it on our website in the blog space. So this is called Bridges Transition Model. William Bridges is a very well-known psychologist, and he put forth a model that to me is super important. Now I know this slide is a mess, and that's one of the reasons I put it up. Hopefully you can see it. I know on Instagram. And today is our. I know on Instagram the screen might be a little small. I think on YouTube and Facebook you'll be able to see the whole thing. Again, it's called William Bridges is the man. The model is called Bridges Transition Model, and his book is called Managing Transitions. So here's the really important thing, and then I'll bring on my co-host so we can talk about letting go, what it means to transition away from anything that you want to shed or get rid of. So this slide shows, if you look from left to right, and if you can see my cursor, you can see this line that just swoops like a bit of a roller coaster. And I do think that's metaphorical for the way we experience letting go of something. And the foundation of Bridges' model is that every time we experience a change, that we should start to understand that the change itself is just a triggering event, whether we're in charge of it, whether we've initiated that change, or whether it's been forced upon us. Our psychological and biological processes are the same, right? So let me just say that again, right? So regardless of whether you've instigated or triggered the change or not, what your body goes through, what your mind goes through is the same. Now, the speed in which you transition through it has a lot to do with how much change you're experiencing, and the intensity. Like I was saying earlier, and intensity often comes with how long we've been living with the thought or the feelings around this change. So let's talk about some change for a second that could be this, right? A breakup is something that we hear about all the time in our coaching, because our relationships are important to us, and our most important relationships, when we transition out of those or into those, that's a triggering event, and it triggers us into psychological transition. And you can see here in the model where there's a whole bunch of emotions that you could feel in the beginning of your transition. And by the way, you can feel them all. Some of us have a whole soup of what I call emotions at the beginning of a change. The reason it says an ending here is because every time we let go of something, it's a let go, it's an end, even if we've just traded it for something new. And so I'll give you an example of what that is. When someone has a baby or gets married, think about that, right? It's a change where you probably have excitement and anticipation. You probably also have uncertainty. It's the ending of your old life. So you also might have reservations. You might be frustrated about some parts of it. You might even be skeptical about what people are telling you about it. So if you just think about that, right? So one change kind of triggers a whole bunch of emotions. And no matter what, when we let go of something or we transition to something new or we make a change, it's the end of one thing and the beginning of another. But what you'll see in Bridges' model, which is why I think it's so brilliant, is that we don't always hook into the new beginning until we go through what's called a transition of our emotions. And I felt like I wanted to bring that because in the last 42 days in this series, what I've experienced a lot is people struggling or talking about the struggle in their transition process, right? Like they will tell us about change, we'll talk to each other about needing to change, about letting go of things. We'll often talk about what we're struggling with the most, like which of those emotions feel the most intense to us. People talked about in our personal heroine's journey. I just did one yesterday, and the ladies that were with me, we talked about looping, right? Revisiting emotions, not being able to let go of something fully, and so having to relive it. And that absolutely happens here. What Bridges would tell you is that you're really not going backwards, by the way. You're just maybe having emotions that are coming back up during the transition period because you're not fully letting go of it yet. And he would probably tell you that's normal. And I will tell you that it's normal because, as you see here, even though above the line, we're moving from uncertainty to a new level of commitment to something new, but your emotions have to fully be realized. And like I said, let go of, right? You've got to experience them and move on in some ways to the next, for you, right? For most of us to feel like we're moving forward. And so I'm saying this because I think that, we've triggered this for a lot of people. I know even myself going through and teaching some of the workshops, it brought up some things for me to realize I hadn't fully let go of them. Or things that I had let go of. Now I'm kind of thinking about them in new ways, and I'm back in some level of transition and realizing that maybe even though I thought I was kind of over something, that I wasn't really completely over it. And I thought, if you're having that, anybody here who's joining us, maybe in 2021, when we come back and do a second series, we can spend some time on this and really dig into what it feels like in your body and in your mind when you're not ready to move past some of these things. You're not ready to explore the new fully because you haven't completely let go of something. And also to know that, by the way, even when we have kind of quote unquote let go and moved through the cycle psychologically, like the new beginning is something we're excited about, we still may have some reservations, right? We still might be unsure or ambivalent. We still might have a little bit of confusion. And one last thing I want to show you is that, sorry, I know that this is PowerPointy and I'm going to be done in a second, and take this off the screen so you can see my awesome co-hosts and talk. But I do want to just make sure that you know that no matter what you're feeling, you're normal. And all the tools that we brought forth in the series is to help you with this, whichever feels right to you, whatever is resonating, and that it is normal to struggle through this process, specifically if you're unsure how to help yourself, or if you've tried something over and over again, and maybe that modality or that practice isn't as effective for you as it was early on. And I just wanted to talk a little bit, just briefly, literally for a minute, about why that is. And mostly because adults have a primal need for security, order, and control. So you just need to know that about yourself. And I know in this series we've talked about a lot of things, but really foundationally, give yourself a break if you are having a struggle in processing some things. You are going to probably default to security, order, and control. And because we are adults, right, anything we're afraid of losing is going to trigger our ego, and even for people who have done a ton of work, and you might believe about yourself that your ego is not in control of you, you're never going to fully get rid of it. Of course, it's a part of who we are, not just our identity, but how we navigate the world that we're in. And so I'm just going to urge you to, again, maybe go back to some of the recordings. If you've been with us through the series and you have the bundle, I know you have access to all of that. Give yourself a break. Like I said, if you need to revisit it, know that we are available. We Are Formless is available on an ongoing basis. And you're doing great, regardless of where you are. So with that, I'm going to ask my co-host to come back. And I think, Marina, I'm going to pass it to you next so you can continue this conversation about letting go.
Oh, thank you so much, Chris. That was such a, powerful kind of moment. And I was just resonating with so much of it. And I think something you said in the heroine's journey, and also the hero's journey, was this kind of cycle and us not feeling like we have to that we're going to continuously go around this cycle. Like we often go back and then up and then back, and that's okay. Like that's part of it. That's, it's not about us working so hard to let go of this ego. That is part of, who we are. So first I just want to say, wow, thank you. This has just been an incredible journey. I feel like it's really been a journey of just like these souls that have come together so organically. And I was kind of thinking about the best way to sort of express how I felt about the series. So my name is Marina and I'm co-founder of We're Formless. And I also have another platform where I kind of really explore what soul living is through art and creativity. And when I say art and creativity, obviously there's the kind of medium of art where we can express physically, but I also see art as just a way of living, just the process of art. So the movement, the breath, noticing those in-between moments that can so often get missed, that we rush by. So I just kind of wanted to share some words that I jotted down, but that also come organically. And I just, was kind of sinking into this space before this call. And I really felt like, wow, we've got this group of, without intention, women that have, come together at different points in their life, but with such a similar kind of like visceral need to just express like authentically from the heart, from the soul, and we're all doing it in slightly different ways, but it felt like a really special moment in time. And a lot of the time we've kind of talked about kind of our ancestors, and I feel like in a way we're kind of meeting at this point we're kind of picking up where, you know, they've left off, and it's for a reason. And I feel like we're starting to sort of sink into their kind of their art, you know, what they've created before us, that we're now kind of in a position to pick up and move forward with courage. I feel for you know, many moons we've been kind of swept up in these like structures, you know, these kind of like steel, concrete kind of structures of advance and gain, and prosper and wealth. And I feel like we've been left feeling weakened a lot by these structures. And that isn't to say that we don't implement structure in life, but these heavy structures, these structures that we attach to notions of success and material gain, you know, they've left us actually more hungry. Yeah, I feel like they've somewhat weakened us, and I think that that's where we felt this kind of calling to go deeper, like this kind of calling of from our ancestors, this calling to express and to delve. And we've all kind of found these different ways to explore, whether it's through art or different modalities. I feel like when we have been on this journey of success, it didn't fill our appetite. It didn't give us that feeling of joy and finality that I think we all thought we were going to get from these structures, you know, these linear structures where we move forward. If anything, it kind of starved us from this abundance that soul living has to offer. And I feel like for many of us, it's been calling us, you know, these voices. We've been trying to kind of hush the voices. Maybe we didn't understand them, and still progress forward. But when these call-ins start to enter, you know, the body, the soul, there's only so long you can ignore them. They appear in your dreams. They appear in that moment between sleep and wake. There's like a pull from the core. They're residual throughout the day and in each of our moments, until we get to a point where we have to face them or face ourselves. And often it can begin by the heart starting to open, the calling of like nature and soul, this unseeable energy. And this is why it can often be confusing, because it falls outside of these physical structures that we have presented to us in the world. So it can feel really unnerving, and it can feel really isolating, but we can't ignore it. And the more we begin to tap in and tune in, the more it starts to physically present itself. So this unseen energy starts to materialize, and it can often do that firstly in people. So when our heart and our core and our soul starts tuning in, starts listening, starts paying attention, maybe you take up a practice or a modality or meditation, or you start tuning into this thing we call intuition, the physicality of it starts to appear, and people start to come into your life, souls with hearts that begin to connect. This kind of union of language expressed in different mediums. I like to call this soul art. And it rises, and sometimes it claws, and it kind of claws its way to the surface. It sounds really beautiful, but actually it's really painful. It can actually be excruciating. Everything we thought we sort of were and everything we thought we knew seems to start falling. You know, it starts to shed and it starts to die. and it's painful, and we become so open and vulnerable, but we're not alone. And this is the key factor. We're not alone. We become this like union, this symphony of old languages that we might not fully understand, but we know it really deeply. And when we begin to allow ourselves to open up in this way, and we kind of link with other souls, other hearts, other people, and in this new or old, should I say, community, we can begin to rebuild. We start to like sow our kind of broken hearts through song, through dance, through movement, through art, through writing, through drawing. And in this community, we become kind of like a new type of strong. We present a new kind of power. It can be a peaceful power and a passionate power. It can be kind and protective. And we begin to nourish ourselves with this. And when we begin to nourish ourselves with this power, we begin to nourish others with this power. And so the community grows. This power is rooted in love. It's rooted in presence, in connection, in empathy. Our version of success begins to look very different. We're able to express it differently. We're able to express it with art, the ultimate expression. So with these thoughts, I found a poem that I just want to share before I pass on. And it kind of really summarized where the feeling of this journey. It's by Henry Miller. And it says, "Every day we slaughter our finest impulses. That is why we get heartache when we read those lines written by the hand of a master and recognize them as our own, as the tender shoots we stifled because we lacked faith to believe in our own powers, our own criterion of truth and beauty. Every man, when he gets quiet, when he becomes desperately honest with himself, is capable of uttering profound truths. We all derive from the same source. There is no mystery about the origin of things. We are all part of creation, all kings, all poets, all musicians. We have only to open up to discover what is already there." So thank you from my heart, from my soul, for this incredible journey, for opening of hearts and love and compassion. And yeah, it's been such a beautiful experience. Thank you. So I'm going to pass the baton on now, I believe to Rebecca.
Hi everyone. It's so good to be with you. Yeah, thank you, Marina. Those words were so beautiful and so apt for today. It's really interesting how the topic of kind of death has been in the air for well, since last weekend with the Samhain celebrations. I think it's kind of this this theme that's always with me, but that has been more prominent over the last week, and certainly last weekend and today has felt yeah, just really significant. So yeah, I'm Rebecca. I'm the other half of We Are Formless, and for those of you who've been journeying over this 42-day series, it's been an absolute pleasure to be with you. And for anyone who's tuning in that's new, welcome, and hoping that we can go on some kind of future journey together soon. So the work that I've been sharing, the kind of practices that I've been sharing are more about getting into the body. And I think with any soul work, spiritual work, it's really important to honor the body and honor the any kind of process that we go through mentally, emotionally. It has an effect on the body. And so, you know, when we grow, if you think about just going back to that sort of that subject of death, what I mean by that is whenever we grow, whenever we evolve, there's also an element of death. You know, whenever we're reborn, there's always this element of death. So it's this constant cycle that's happening all around us all the time. And when we're really able to be aware of that and tune into that, that process that goes on in so many elements of our lives, I think it's good to also honor that process within ourselves, within our bodies. So the kind of modality that I've been teaching through this series is yoga. And I've really tried to be clear on the importance that I feel about practicing yoga being more than just a physical practice on the mat. It's really this unity of body, mind, and breath. This connection between our soul and the cosmic soul, between our heart and the cosmic heart. So when I talk about honoring the body, it's more than just kind of, you know, doing postures on the mat. It's really about tuning in wherever we are at any given moment, and just seeing where we're at mentally, and then how we're feeling, and then how that feeling, how that emotion is translated within our bodies. And so going through any kind of process, any kind of journey, there are always things that will be falling away. And I'm really interested in that process as it happens within the body. And when I mean in the body, I also mean energetically within the body. So just on any given day, as we're walking around, we're constantly absorbing and transmitting energy. And so even on a day where, you know, we're feeling incredible, just going outside and being amongst other people who may not be feeling that great, we just naturally pick up that energy. And equally, if we experience some kind of emotion that may be unpleasant, there is residual energy that stays with us. So I really like to think about these embodied practices as ways of letting go with using the body and through the body and with the body. So not just feeling like, you know, thinking about something that we've let go, but also understanding that there is a release that's happening within our bodies, and it's happening whether we pay attention to it or not. So it's I think it's just really special to be able to really just tune in and go on that journey with our bodies rather than it being something that happens unconsciously. So in letting go, obviously, I think it's really good to mention that meditation is one of those exercises that's just really good for tuning in to see what is weighing us down, seeing what we may still be holding on to. And I think that it's one of those things that you can practice, you know, first thing in the morning, but also just whenever you need to, whenever you're feeling sticky or uneasy about anything, just really sitting with yourself and tuning in is a really powerful exercise, because once you know what it is that's weighing you down, you're then able to acknowledge it, allow it to be seen, allow it to be felt, and then it's easier to let it go. It's always easier to let go of what we're aware of. I think it's impossible to let go of something that you're unaware of. So facing things can be painful sometimes, and I think especially, you know, on these spiritual journeys that we're all on, whether consciously or unconsciously, sometimes you may think you're completely over something, but then all of a sudden it's back again and you're kind of like, oh, I thought I dealt with you. But it just means that there's another lesson there to be learned. or something that needs your attention. And I think meditation is a good way of being able to sit with yourself and be curious and really present in that process. And then I also want to mention movement. So going back to that kind of physical practice of yoga, flowing, using the body as a form of prayer is a really, again, nice way of letting go. But I do also want to add, and I didn't mention it in the series, and I remember wishing that I did, was that on some days I wake up and I don't feel like doing a flow. I just feel like moving my body. And so when I feel like that, that's exactly what I do. Just like moving, however, really kind of coming away from my mind, putting on a playlist, one of my favorite tracks, and just allowing my body to move in the way that it wants to move. So it doesn't always have to be this kind of sequenced, structured flow. But again, using your body in that way, moving with it, and just allowing your emotions and the energy to stir and shift and release is a really good practice for letting go. And I mentioned about us absorbing and transmitting energy. So I also want to mention in letting go, thinking about cleansing and clearing rituals. So that can be anything from using sacred smoke, like, smudge stick or incense or Palo Santo. Although I will say, and I always say, that I think with any kind of ritual using sacred smoke, it's good to maybe create your own smudge stick or use something that's local to you. So we're not kind of creating this cycle of unsustainability whilst we're trying to do good, because obviously that's completely counterproductive. So where you can, I know during the series there was included in one of the guides how to make your own smudge stick, but you can look it up online as well if you didn't receive that guide. But yeah, sacred smoke is a really good way to just clear that energy that's kind of stagnated around your space and around your aura. And just remember that when you're doing that, to open the windows, to let all of that stagnant energy that you don't need out and get loads of fresh energy back in. And there's also like salt baths and using sound, but just remembering again that when you've got something that you're letting go, it's a process, and you can and should involve your body, because like I said, it's working at it anyway. So when you're really aware of that process and you're able to work with your body and aid that process, then I think I can't say that it makes it any less painful. If anything, you kind of face it more, but yeah, it's definitely worth it. So I want to just invite everyone to do a really brief body scan meditation. It's something that I practice usually before I start moving on my mat in the mornings, but it's a really good way of, like I said, getting curious about where we are. So I'm going to invite you to just gently close down the eyes and begin to tune into your natural flow of breath. As you breathe, notice what's on your mind in this moment. What's filling up your headspace? Just witnessing as this curious observer of your thoughts. What have you woken up with this morning? And just allowing yourself to be curious without the need to change or alter anything. Now thinking about bringing your attention to your emotional body. So scanning over those thoughts in your mind and noticing if they carry any emotions with them. Again, just being curious here. Noticing what thoughts are just a chatty mind, and if there's anything that actually really needs your attention. Now, bringing your awareness into your physical body. Using the breath to scan through your physical body from the crown of your head down through to the tips of your toes. Again, not trying to change anything here, just noticing. Are there any areas of your physical body that need your attention? And now bringing your awareness to your energetic body. Noticing your level of energy in this moment. Again, not trying to change anything, just noticing. And taking just a few more deep breaths, just to see if there's anything else that's calling for your attention. And then whenever you're ready, gently blinking open the eyes. So the thing that I love about that scan is that we're really not trying to change anything. It's really this fully accepting and embracing almost like a hug that you can give yourself. So often these practices are aimed at some kind of shift, but just giving yourself that bodily scan through your mental, through your emotional, through your physical, through your energetic, without the need, without any kind of attachment to any particular outcome, can just be really, really nice and really, really nourishing for your body and your soul. So I hope that you found that useful, and it's again been such a pleasure to journey with you all. I just want to close with my favorite quote from Glennon Doyle, which is the true and the beautiful, the building of the true and the beautiful requires the destruction of the good enough. The building of the true and the beautiful requires the destruction of the good enough. And with that, I will pass on to Karuna. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Rebecca. That was lovely, as always, and so powerful and compelling. Thanks, everybody, for joining us and staying with us. I'm Karuna, co-founder of AVVI. And, I just want to echo everything that everybody has said this morning, with Chris doing the bridges model, transition model, and Marina and Rebecca, just powerful words about transition. I have one of my favorite quotes. I see we're all kind of into quotes and poems today, and I'm kind of doing the same. But one of my favorite quotes about transition is not attributed to anybody. It's listed as an anonymous person who said it, but it is always stuck with me. And the quote is as follows: "She knew this transition was not about becoming someone better, but about finally allowing herself to become who she had always been." I'll repeat that. She knew this transition was not about becoming someone better, but about finally allowing herself to become who she had always been. And it's so, it's always stuck with me. It's always been compelling to me. And this is really why we are all here. This is why we did this 42-day event. This is why AVVI was created. It's about finding yourself, about living or becoming the best version of yourself. However you want to interpret it, whatever words you want to put to it, doesn't matter. But the bottom line is, it is a journey inward, and that is the most important piece of this. I do energy work, and I've done some sessions, remote energy healing sessions throughout these last 42 days. And the intention is really to send out blasts of energy using some Reiki energies, and to keep your energy transmission centers in your bodies open so that energy flows, because our emotions, our anxieties, our stresses tend to get blocked in our chakras. We have 7 chakras in our bodies. And when those chakras are blocked, energy that doesn't tend to flow. And it is not healthy for energy to stay stuck, because it manifests in a whole bunch of different ways if energy is blocked. So the intention or the objective of energy healing is to keep those centers open. And it's very powerful. It can be done remotely, which is what I've done in the sessions. What I want to do very briefly today is send out some remote energy. But I'm going to do a little multitasking. It's not typically what I do in my session. I'm going to do it a little differently, because I want to keep it short and brief, but I also want it to be just as powerful. So I'm going to actually get us into a little bit of a meditative state. And I just want you to make sure that you're seated comfortably with your feet hopefully planted on the ground. And I'm going to read a poem, but that poem is really my intention and prayer for all of us collectively. And whatever journey you are on, or whatever phase of the journey you are on, I think this will be an incredibly powerful energy blast. So hopefully it will allow some release and some letting go, in the hope of having some good transition. So again, make sure you're seated comfortably, have your feet firmly planted on the ground. I want you to now allow your eyes to close gently, bringing your focus to your breath. Just breathe in healing energy. Breathing out, releasing any tension, any anxiety that you may be feeling. Without changing your breath, simply notice how it flows in through your nose. Feel the cool air as it passes into your nostrils, as it fills you up. Encourage each natural out-breath to release any tension that you may be feeling. Continue to observe your breath and allow it to deepen naturally and slow down. Continue breathing at a natural pace, breathing in, breathing out. Without a thought or a word, she let go. She let go of fear. She let go of judgments. She let go of the confluence of opinions swarming around her head. She let go of the committee of indecision within her. She let go of all the right reasons, wholly and completely, without hesitation or worry. She just let go. She didn't ask anyone for advice. She didn't read a book on how to let go. She just let go. She let go of all the memories that held her back. She let go of all the anxiety that kept her from moving forward. She let go of all the planning and of all the calculations about how to do it just right. She didn't promise to let go. She didn't journal about it. She didn't write the projected date in her calendar. She made no public announcement. She didn't check the weather report or read her daily horoscope. She just let go. She didn't analyze whether she should let go. She didn't call her friends to discuss the matter. She didn't utter one word. She just let go. No one was around when it happened. There was no applause or congratulations. No one thanked her or praised her. No one noticed a thing. Like a leaf falling from a tree, she just let go. There was no effort. There was no struggle. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was what it was, and it is just that. In the space of letting go, she let it all be. A small smile came over her face. A light breeze blew through her. and the sun and the moon shone forevermore. Just focus on your breath. Taking a deep breath in. Taking a deep breath out. You're beginning your journey back to the present moment. You know that you will continue to nurture yourself with care and compassion. You will find inner peace. Awakening your senses. And when you are ready, open your eyes. You are fully back in this present moment, feeling energized and free. I will continue to send out some energy blasts as we transition into the next portion of this. There's nothing for you to do. Just breathe normally. The poem that I read was written by Reverend Sapphire Rose, and the title of it was She Let Go. So thank you. Thank you for joining me and us. It's been lovely, very energizing, and really inspiring to be with this lovely group of people. And with that, I'm going to transition over to Eugenie.
Thank you, Karuna. That was beautiful. Yeah, that poem was pretty perfect, and I think paired well with offerings throughout the 42 days. So I feel kind of honored to be closing this our closing session, if you will. And now that I'm kind of seeing it through, I love the way that Chris opened it up with kind of understanding the psychology of where we're at when we're facing transition. I think that that's oftentimes where a lot of us start, because as Marina mentioned, when we are in these systems, these heavy systems of structure, oftentimes what is logical, what is tangible, what we know, kind of the science of things, is easier to grasp first as we then ease our way along our journeys into understanding. And so this is really, really beautifully done, as I think the 42 days have kind of played out in this very natural and accessible way. And so I just want to start off before I start, I'll let everyone know what I'm going to do to close the session is another meditation. And I actually love that kind of the last three of us have kind of had this meditation focus. I once went to, speak a seminar with someone who, is a very productive, amazing human being doing great things in the world, obviously, speaks all over the world. And he said that he meditates 2 hours every morning. And the thought of that is just profound to me that someone could meditate for 2 hours every morning. But then I think about what my meditation teacher, and actually Rebecca and Marina learned from Michael McCaffrey as well. What always sits with me that I learned from him is that meditation isn't like getting out your mat and lighting the incense and playing the music and sitting for 2 hours. Still, although it can be, that is not the goal or the purpose. Those can be tools to help you kind of have sustained meditation. But meditation is really anytime we return to ourselves. Like going back to that calling you home theme, like anytime we come home to us intentionally, that is meditation. And I think, now it's been almost an hour where in essence, we've been continually returning to ourselves with focused intention. Whether just by showing up in that moment, that you tuned in today and listened to Chris, and you started that journey towards understanding psychologically how transition affects us, how letting go affects us, and to each moment that one of these amazing women just dropped us down into our breath, brought us home to ourselves. And I'm reminded that now we've been meditating together for almost an hour. And so now all of a sudden 2 hours doesn't seem so hard. That said, what I'd like to leave us with is another tool. A large part of the Calling You Home series has been real accessibility to healing modalities and just kind of things that can seem hard to reach. And so in this vein of creating space for you to meditate, to return home to you, to be able to do those hard things like let go. I really loved that poem that Karuna shared. I also had an internal battle listening to it thinking, but how? Every time she said she just did, it was there still exists this id, this insidious ego, this part of us that says, but how do I do that? What are you doing to let go? Because it is hard, as Chris mentioned. And so I want to leave us with a tool to kind of drop into meditation. We will meditate together for a little bit, but again, I hope to, this is more of an active meditation. And it specifically is focused on when you are feeling anxiety around transition, change, as Chris mentioned, one of the easiest ones is like if it's a change that you did not choose yourself, right? In your conscious mind did not choose this new phase or ending a particular phase. There is a lot of anxiety around that. So when you're feeling that, I also think it's kind of poignant that we're kind of doing our closing session focused on transition on a day when our country has been kind of in a stuck transitional period. And regardless of where we stand politically, I think any one of us, we're feeling the weight of that kind of stuck transitional phase, probably worldwide. And so when we're feeling that, as Rebecca mentioned, you can find a point to take, you can find this time. And so this is not a meditation where, again, you need to make everything quiet. You can be sitting on the tube, sitting in traffic, and kind of use this meditation tool as it's an active meditation. I am going to invite you now, as we kind of drop into this, to close your eyes if it's comfortable. That can help to focus, but if it's more comfortable to leave your eyes open, feel free. Just find a point to look at to allow kind of your gaze to ease a little bit. Sometimes it can be easier in meditation overall. So I'm going to invite you to just kind of, again, find a comfort, notice your body, notice where you're at, notice what you're feeling. And it's going to be a breathing meditation technique where, so of course, just like in that first few moments, as you're sitting either with your gaze lowered, averted, or your eyes closed, you're just going to start to notice your breath, as we do whenever we're feeling anxiety, whenever we're feeling any sort of discomfort. We can just come back into that breath. And we can remember in this moment when we're kind of noticing our breath, I want you to understand that transition can feel difficult because letting go can feel like a void, right? And so with this breath work, we're going to let each breath serve as a reminder that we do exist in paradox and that we are always seeking balance with an inhale. And so on this first inhale, I want you to pull the air through the crown of your head. Imagine through the crown of your head, you're pulling your inhale through into your heart. And you're going to pull it straight and you're going to let your heart expand. And then you're just going to release it, because with every inhale, there is an exhale. We're constantly seeking balance. So continue to practice that with each breath right now, just pulling through the crown of your head, inflating that heart space and filling that breath into your heart, and then releasing without any thought. When remembering this, again, we're reminding ourselves that there isn't a void. We are seeking balance, and that our success in navigating change is actually the only thing certain. You know, when we're facing transition, we're afraid of the void, we're afraid of uncertainty. But in coming into our breath and pulling that breath through your crown, filling your heart space, you're reminded of our innate balance, and that navigating change is the only certainty. It is the only thing we've done throughout our existence successfully. Every time you've made it through by virtue of pulling air through the crown of your head, filling your heart space and releasing it. You are exhibiting your success in navigating transition and change. So this time I want you to sit and I want you to pull that, when you're pulling that next intentional breath through the crown into your heart space, I want you to imagine pulling the positive things. You're thinking, this is an active meditation, thinking about something that you are facing transition, whether it is a breakup or, you know, the state of our nation, or moving, anything that you're afraid to step into this transition where it feels like a void. Pull in through the crown of your head the positive aspects of that. Even if the only positive aspect you have, because you can't think of anything else in this moment, is opportunity. You can always remember there lies an opportunity in change, no matter what. So if the only thing you're pulling through the crown of your head and you're filling your heart space with is opportunity, do that. If you can expand that and think of more, then do that. And with each breath, pull those positive attributes of change, whatever opportunity lies before you, into your heart space and fill your heart space with that. And then at the top, when you can't fill your heart space anymore, hold it. Hold it in your heart space. And then release any worry out through the front of your heart. Okay, now we'll walk through this together. It's kind of, again, a tool that we can practice. On the count of 3, what you're going to do is, again, think of that thing that you're facing. You're going to pull a positive attribute of it, even if it's only opportunity, through the crown of your head into your heart space. Fill your heart space and hold opportunity or any other positive aspect of this transition in your heart. You're going to hold it in your heart and you're going to feel it. And then when you exhale, you're going to exhale out through your chest. Worry, fear, anxiety. And then we're going to do it to the count of 3. 1, 2, 3, pulling through the crown, envisioning it as a light, filling your heart space. Deep, deep, deep inhalation, full of opportunity and growth. Filling that heart space and holding at the top for 3, 2, 1, with an exhale, releasing worry out through your chest. And we're knowing that when we release out through our chest, we're releasing with love. We've just spent time with transition in our hearts, and we release that worry because it does serve, as Chris lined out, as a protection method, as something that is innately part of us. And so we release it with love. And we remind ourselves with the cycle of each breath. Again, continue that breathing in through the crown of your head as you're listening to me speak, into the crown of your head. Positive attributes holding in the heart and releasing through your chest. And as I'm speaking, I'm just going to remind you of some things, reminding ourselves with this cycle, this in, this out, this balance of masculine, feminine, everything. We are reminding ourselves that as we release those attachments, we're actually able to embrace impermanence. Again, one of the only things that is certain in this life is impermanence, that everything goes. And that might bring some fear up as you're cycling through. The idea of impermanence oftentimes is scary to people because it shows change. However, when we really look at what impermanence is, it's an ability, it is about the now. When we accept, when we embrace that everything changes, nothing stays, everything is impermanent, then it puts a spotlight on the joy of now. We start to recognize the value in now. When we can embrace change, we value now. And what is more beautiful than that? So by releasing attachments, when we breathe in impermanence, the beauty and the joy of impermanence and now in through the crown of our head, and we hold it in our heart, and we allow that to fill our heart space, and we with love release our attachments to what we thought something should have been, that's balance. When we breathe in one idea, the opportunity for one idea, we breathe it in and we hold it in our heart and we let go of one idea, all of a sudden there's this huge space to open up for more. When we allow one phase to complete, we're able to confidently step into the next. This is where we need to let go of the fear of the void, right? And again, this tool, I hope, helps you cycle that through. When we allow one phase to complete, we can even get rid of the word end. End tends to be scary. We allow one phase to complete because everything has a completion. We're able to confidently step into the next phase. And if that's what you're breathing in through the crown of your head because you're sad, you can even breathe in the now, the appreciation of sadness, right? If we can breathe in the joy that we're able to feel and let that fill our heart space, the appreciation for emotion, for feeling, and then release the attachment to it. You can do that this cycle sitting at your desk, sitting in traffic. I'm gonna let you cycle through a few more breaths like that. I have a quote too to share. It's one of my own. I have sprinkled some of my poetry throughout the Calling You Home collective, as poetry really has been a way that I found my way home a few years ago when I really started my intentional self-discovery and healing journey. And as Marina mentioned in her very eloquent time, she mentioned that, you know, that soul art, my soul art was really finding poetry. And so I'll leave you with a poem that I remind myself of often, to remind when I'm feeling attached to the way something should be, or feeling attached and I need to let go of it. What if I told you that nothing is ever as glamorous as you'd imagined, but that it can be infinitely more magical if you give up your attachment to what should have been, always in preference of magic? And one more breath in through the crown of your head, pulling all positive aspects of anything, any transition, holding it in your heart, and releasing all attachments to what should have been, leaving space for only magic. And when you're ready, rejoin us if you've closed your eyes. Come back to us with your gaze. And thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being here for 42 days. Thank you for sharing this closing with us. I think I'm going to pass it back off to Chris to officially close us out. Thank you.
As always, a beautiful moment with this group of amazing people. I don't know that I can add that much more, but to say thank you again. And I guess I will officially bring the 42-day cross-continental collective Calling You Home to an end, or a pause, I should say, because I think that we will probably embark on this again, maybe after the turn of the new year. So with this, I just want to send all of that beautiful energy out to everyone one last time and just say thank you and namaste. And we love you and we're grateful.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay.
Thank you.
Everybody.